Good morning, sunshines. Great morning, sunshines. Extraordinary, even. Extraordinary morning sunshine is what this is. Hey guys, I am Callie Carroll, and I'm so excited to be making this video. Our storm is gone. This storm is gone, and we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about how that applies to your life and how we face different chapters and what we do when we're there. But a lot of you guys are looking for some updates on Whitten John, where our family's at. So let's dive into that. That's going to be great. But first things first, I go to the gym this morning. Actually, first things first before that. Last night, I slept like a rock. I mean, a rock. I was so exhausted. 8:30 came around, and my body, after everything that we've been through, it was just like, Cal, shut down time. I think I slept like 11 hours. I don't know. That was magical, right? How did that even get to happen? And then I got up to go to Pilates class this morning, and I'm driving, and I'm just like, I just feel incredible. And as I'm walking through the gym, I'm kind of like, I'm strutting through the gym. And I'm like, hey. Like, I kind of want to be like, high five. My kid's healthy. High five. Does anybody want to shake my hand? Do you want my autograph? My kid's healthy. This is literally what I felt like. And then what was cool is one of the extraordinary souls in my Pilates class does follow our story. We connected, I don't know, a couple months ago, and she comes up and just gives me this like biggest, warmest embrace. And I was like, this, that's what sort of morning it's been as our storm has left. Our storm has departed. So for those of you guys that don't know what I'm talking about, my baby boy, my youngest of four children, Whitten John Carroll, he was diagnosed with a rare cancer back in June 24th of 2022. And since that day, since before that day, to be honest, really 2 years ago, this storm entered our lives. You know, we were going through maybe normal little weather inclements back and forth to this like dark, gray, ominous, what is happening in my world sort of storm. And then I kept thinking over the next, year and a half, 2 years, that the storm was going to clear. Sometimes you're in this situation, right? Like you're in a storm of life. You're like, when is this storm going to clear? And I was just like, okay, like after maybe a couple months, I'll be back at work. I'll be back doing things. I didn't realize how long the storm was going to hover, pour, affect, bring winds and just hard, dismal conditions into our family circle, from the different 58 chemo infusions that he had, the three different types, because his type of cancer is really interesting. It can actually run and hide from chemos. So it's different in each person's body, which is why one kid will respond to one chemo, another kid needs a different one. My baby had to go to the third string because the cancer was so good at hiding from it that after 2 months of treatments, we did scans and he had 5 new tumors. So it was actually like planting in different places. But thankfully, back in October of 2022, we found the right chemotherapy. And it's a harsh chemo. A lot of people don't like to do it because it's very, very challenging for the kids. They become completely neutropenic. You pretty much don't want to leave the house because you don't want to bring any germs in. You don't want many people around because you don't want many germs in, because your neutropenic, like your ANC levels should be at least 1,500, if not like 2,000, 2,500. His was 10 to 20, not 220, like zit. So not only that, but every single round we had something different, whether it was a 12-hour spurt of barfing every 30 minutes, a rash that covered his body, hospitalizations, different things that postponed chemotherapy, multiple scans. It was a storm. And last October, just 6 months ago, we were so lucky and grateful to do scans and find out that the cancerous cells were going away, that there's not an abnormal uptake, is what you call it in the cancer world, and that they pronounced him NAD, no active disease, at that time, after a year and a half of chemotherapy. Such an extraordinary occasion, celebration. I didn't understand at that time that we were moving into a same storm, just maybe a little bit of a different type of cloud. Maybe we went from cumulonimbus to cirrus nimbus. I don't know. Let's not talk about meteorology. I'm not a meteorologist, but it just shifted and we were in this chemo hangover phase. And I didn't really even try to think about the chemo hangover while I was in chemo stage because my brain couldn't handle that. So as we entered that, everything was new again. And we learned that we had to reacclimate my son's response, his stress response. And he had these different attacks for a couple months where it would just come in out of nowhere and he didn't know how to regulate his emotions any longer. I do believe that he left his body for quite a bit of time. We did some different play therapy where you do these activities where you want to create different sensory environments where you bring them back to their body. He was like, absolutely not. I'd been gone because I didn't want to experience that. Like I wanted to go somewhere else. You know how sometimes we mentally just like leave our space. He went somewhere else, and bringing him back to his body and discovering life has been a really interesting chemo hangover process, from the physical sensations, of regulating his temperament and his sensory disorders. So getting him out of footy pajamas. He wore footy pajamas for an entire year through the summer and all, you guys. And finally getting him into clothing has been a huge thing. Moving him into like shorts, different things where his arms or legs aren't covered was pretty challenging. And then moving him into attempting to eat some different foods. We're not quite there with that yet, but now he started getting in water. He wouldn't do water for a long time. Bath time was not very much fun before, but we've gotten to the pool. He started swimming. So we've been making these baby steps through his chemo hangover over the last 6 months. He still has anxiety over separation. So he won't go to any sort of child care. Like I try to take him to the gym or you talk about preschool. Absolutely not yet, but it'll come. It comes. I hear from other chemo moms, maybe about a year before that starts to get there, but I'm doing a lot of things to support it. This has been a continuation of this storm that we've been in, right? So here we are almost at the 2-year mark. And yesterday we had his 6-month rescans. Now, before the rescans, I didn't invest a lot of time and energy in thinking about it and letting myself emotionally like connect to what was going on. I was still in survival mode. Let's just not think about it until we get there, because scan days are pretty traumatizing for anybody. But when you're a small child, you have to get anesthesia. When you're a small child with AVP deficiency, which is another disease that he has because of a tumor that was on his pituitary, when you have that, he's got this water trauma. And when you go under anesthesia, you have to take water and food away. And when you do that to him, there is a lot of negative reactions. So yesterday, all morning long, his temperament was wild. He didn't even know that he was going in, but he had not been able to drink or eat. And even though we distracted him enough to not like really say those words, he was a little grizzly bear all morning long. We're like, ooh, grizzly bear. So we left early. We just like drove really slow to the hospital. We got excited when we hit a traffic jam because that meant we were in the car for longer. I found some butterfly tattoos. So he tatted up like his whole face and his arms because that's really distracting for him. So we got him in this phase of distraction. And then we got to the hospital. And at that point, he was like, why are we here? What's going on? I don't want to poke you. I don't want to poke you right away. But he did pretty good going through this time. I was really proud of him. You know, we had different strategies of distraction. We went to look at all the different fishes. We went to do all the fun things. And then when we got there, I do want to also make sure that I'm not telling him like lies before getting there. So when he finally asked, am I getting a poke directly? I said, yeah, buddy, but we're only going to do one poke. So we had a couple breakdowns. Good news is so before they hit a port. So it was, even though he didn't like accessing the port, it was pretty easy. It was like this push pin that you just pop on in and then you access and everything's good. Now they have to go in and find one of his little veins for an IV. And he's only 3, right? This process started when he was 1. His little veins are still very tiny, but she did an excellent job. She nailed one right in the hand. We had a little blood bath. I got like blood all over my pants because he was so in flow, which was great. But then we played. He went under anesthesia, did amazing, came out of anesthesia, was super tired from his versed because that keeps him calm. And then we waited. We went and got ice cream, waited for results. After that, we went and saw the doctor. And the beautiful news is, because I'm going to go through these pieces and we're going to talk about the storms, okay, and how this all fits together for you. But this is my update for everyone, is that they went through and everything looks, what was the words they used? No alarming uptake. There's no irregular uptake. So there's still uptake means that's where like places light up. There's still going to be uptake throughout your body because there's activity in your body. But you can see the bone in his skull is closing. He had a hole in his skull about an inch and a half big before. That bone is closing. Skulls are they take a while for those bones to come back, to grow back. His hip bone is almost completely closed. That one is a very large, probably like 5 to 6 inches, I think. Maybe not that big because he's that tiny. I can't imagine on the scale. Anyways, it was big. That the bones are almost completely healed on that. All the other new 5 tumors, they're all gone. So no uptake. So things look incredible. A little bit of uptake in his lungs, but we think that it's because he has allergies and that it's always like moving and it can be like collapsed lung while you're laying on your chest there, sedated. So we're not worried about any of that. Incredible, right? So NAD is no active disease, which is what Whitten John is right now. This is why I wanted high fives from everybody at the gym, like, hey, my son's NAD. And they'd be like, cool. Yeah, you know me. My son's NAD. Yeah, they're like, what is she talking about? He's no active disease. And the reason why we call it that instead of remission with this type of cancer is because it is not curable as of yet, because it's extremely rare. So it's underfunded. My baby's 1 in a million, but 1 in 200,000 for LCH have this. And there's not as much research. There's more and more every day. I'm a part of a foundation that's doing more, but his is because of a mutation. So there's a gene mutation that can occur. So it can come back anytime. Like somebody else has cancer and after 5 years, they do scans like high five, I don't want to see it again. That's not the way that it works for this type of cancer. We are always going to be monitoring him, watching him. There's a 15% reoccurrence rate because of the chemo that he had. But I am faithful and trusting that there's going to be a lot of different movement in the LCH, the histiocytosis world over the next, 50 years. And I'm excited to see what that brings. So that is as good of news as the Carroll family can possibly receive, which is incredible. The final thing is like what happens next for us, because I know people are curious about that. We'll do scans again in 6 months, but here's my realization today. Like literally, like just starting to sit with it today because I've still been in survival mode and I just crashed out last night. So as I'm driving to the gym, I'm like, dude, he didn't have chemo for 6 months. No medicine in his body. I'm like, literally, he hasn't even been sick. Like we've been barely given him anything in his little body and nothing grew back. The storm has cleared. And I just kept telling myself this, the storm is over, Callie. The storm is over. Like, be with it, embrace it, believe it. Because when you've been in it for so long, sometimes it's hard to believe when you get that news and you just have to you get to be with it for a while. The storm is gone. The storm is gone. I kept saying it over and over again and just breathing that in. And I know we get scans again in 6 months. We're going to do an MRI and a PET scan next time. And we'll do that every single year. So one thing about his disease is because he had a tumor in his pituitary, they are at a higher risk for something called neurodegeneration, which you don't want to get. But we want to make sure we monitor it. So they're going to watch the cerebellum, just watch the brain matter over the next probably 8 years. We'll do scans to make sure that his brain's developing correctly, which it's going to. I have faith in that. But that's what we do next, right? We're going to do scans in 6 months. I'll always see the endocrinologist for that AVP deficiency because that hormone is gone. Whatever. We'll deal with that. We're learning about that. But then we'll just do a scan every single year near his birthday and see that things look great and that his brain's developing well. And that's what we have. That's where we're at. So today, as I'm thinking about this and I'm repeating to myself, the storm is over, the storm is over, like you get to be in that right away. What can happen, especially when you faced a major trauma? And like for me, I thought it was going to end. Like my rainbow butterfly, joyous personality attitude is like, this is going to be over in 2 months. I'll be back at work in 2 months. Everything's going to be like right back to how it was. And then 2 months passes and then 6 months and then a year. And then we're getting like not great news on scans and then more time and more time. So it's like this, I guess, encounter with the continuous storm that keeps coming back. And it put me into the state as I was driving today. I was like, okay, well, yeah, this storm's over, but have you guys ever done that? This storm's over, but we still have to get scans in 6 months, but there's the 15% chance it can come back anytime. And I was like, no, let's chat. I had a chat with myself. Let's chat about this for a second, girl. Let's chat about not allowing ourselves to be in the light of your sunshine filled beautiful days that you're given and spending those days and maybe not like worrying about the storm that could come, but like acknowledging, but yeah, but there's probably a storm right over there. I know I'm surrounded by a bunch of storms. A lot of major people in my world right now are in the middle of their storm. Their big trauma. And not just like a little like breeze, like they're in a storm right now. And as I'm kind of like looking at the reality of life, that everything, there is a beginning and an end to all. There is a beginning and an end. And us getting to live with that acknowledgement and still choose joy and choose to be in our light. And I wanted to play with this conversation with you guys today. First, to just celebrate the shit out of my son and our family and where we're at, and then sharing that the storm is over and what's next for us. It's such a cool thing. And also give you the opportunity to think about and reflect upon your worlds and whether or not you're in a storm right here. And here's something that I wanted to talk about is that when you're when you find that you're in a stage of light, like for our family right now, I will keep my mantra is going to be the storm is over. And I know I need like I may need to switch that because in my brain just hears storm. It doesn't really hear is over. You guys know that, right? So you need to put it on the affirming side. So we are in sunshine. We are in light. That's probably what it's going to be. Like I'm just going to see us like outside, sunshine, rainbows, birds tweeting, like we are in sunshine. We are in this chapter of our lives right now, freaking unbelievable. We are in it. And then allowing, embracing the sunshine and getting to be in it. Okay. Without letting my mind veer towards the what ifs or the different sides or the storms that are, again, there's beginnings and ends. So we have a lot of more storms in our lives. All of us do. Right. And acknowledging being here, being in joy, being in these moments. Also, not even just thinking about your own personal storms, maybe waiting on the horizon, whether that's a year down the road or 5 years down the road, whatever it is. But also, there's all the storms around you. You might be in a period of sunshine right now, and you're like, yeah, but so and so's going through this, or Cal's family's going through this, or they're going through that. So I need to put on my raincoat and I'm going to grab my umbrella and I'm going to march over to their storm with them and I'm going to sit there with them in that. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair for the world and the way that we operate for people to gear up and jump into somebody else's storm when they're in a period of light, because you're only going to get so many periods of lights. That's just the truth of it. You're going to have your own storm that approaches that you are going to get to survive through, thrive through, learn from in the future. But right now, if you're in your sunshine stage, be in your sunshine stage, embrace that. The other thing that I see people doing is they hide their sunshine stage because, well, but they're going through that and they're going through that. So I'm going to downplay the joy that I'm in right now. That's not fair either. You deserve to be in your sunshine, in your joy right now. And it's much more than this, which I'm just making sure that you understand this portion first. You deserve to feel that, be in that, because that's where you're going to develop your brightest light, more discovery of who you are, how you're going to show up and serve and give and be a light for others, which is the bridge point right here, being the light for others. If you're at a sunshine stage, you have the opportunity through your own personality and your own show up to positively affect the people around you with the energy that you carry. And that doesn't mean that you're like, again, you're putting in your raincoat and your umbrella and you're going over there, right? It means that you're shining so bright. It could be something as simple as you walking into a room. I'll give you an example. We were at one of our chemo sessions and I went to a parents meeting. They had like little like family sessions and I just walked in and I was just me. And this was in the middle of our storm, but I've been focused on positivity during my storm. And I just stood for light and joy and a positive energy for these people that were in the room. And I didn't know any of them, but by the time I left, I had 3 different people hugging me saying, thank you for your energy, just for showing up that way. So you being your brightest self, you bring joy to their storm. You bring lightness to their darkness. You give them hope. They might be in it right now, but they see the hope of being on the other side. Now, as I say all of that, you're saying, so we're not supposed to help people that are in the middle of storms? Not that. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Helping, supporting, serving, the different things that people have done for us that I now am getting to do for other people, whether it's joining a meal train and providing actual food or bringing them gifts or sending them a surprise from Amazon or supporting them financially or helping them with the kids or just sending a message. I love you. I'm praying for you. Here's a good song. It made me think of you. A funny GIF, a joke, just, I mean, like a mug, all these different things that just like came out of nowhere. It was like these little, I don't know, like a light burst, like bam, like you're just throwing light bursts into their little areas. Like this one's for you, and you get a light burst, and you get some joy, and you get some joy. Doing that is such a beautiful thing. What I'm saying is putting on your raincoat and your umbrella and getting down under into their storm with them and letting your energy down to where they're at, that's not fair for the world. Shine some light on them. And you can be maybe you're great at being an ear, a soundboard. You're just listening. That's perfect. If that's what your one of your beautiful qualities are, to be with them, that's perfect. But it's not going from your energy level in your sunshine down to somebody else's storm because you're afraid to shine because you know that other people are hurting. And maybe I needed to share this message for myself. I'm not really sure. Acknowledging that I get to be in the light and allowing myself. I think it is. I think I was giving myself this pep talk and I was like, Kelly, the storm's gone, the storm's gone, the storm's gone. Don't think about what could happen or the next storm that's coming. Like, don't worry, the storm's waiting for you. Chapter number 47 or whatever it is. Like, there's a storm out there, but you right now you're in the sunshine chapter. Get in there, just get in the sun, roll in the sand, have fun, like you embrace the laughter and the moments. And while you're doing it, there are storms that are around you. Grab your little light burst and start throwing some sunlight and some sunshine and some smiles and some joy to the people that are around you and be here now in this chapter that you're in. Doesn't that feel good? And for those of you that are in the storm, like I was 5 hours ago, whatever it was, that you guys are like, but I'm in it right now. I see you. I acknowledge you. And I know that being in the storm is a challenging space to be. I also remind you that you grow through your storms. Your strength is multiplied. You overcoming adversity gives you the opportunity to dive deeper into your gratitude and your faith and becoming who you truthfully are. And during this time, during your storm, as your heart is broken in multiple pieces, you get to decide if you want it to come back together black and dark and miserable. The choices that you're making right now they're creating your situation, or you get to start to grab the little snippets in the light that's around you and fill in those little pieces and discover who you can be as your greatest self, stepping into your greatest light, really getting to know your person. When you go through trauma, you guys, you get to know who you are. And at first you might not like it. You're like, that person, oh no, that's she or he's kind of scary. Well, they're a little bit jacked up in there. You get to know and see them and embrace them and love that until you decide, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be the Eeyore person or the person who's always seeing the worst outcome or the one that's always going to be negative, the one who's talking shit about others, the one that's bringing down other people's joy and shine. If you're in a storm and you're trying to cast lightning bolts and rain puddles into somebody else's sunshine, that you might want to reconsider what you're doing right there, right? And if you that's one of the reasons why if you're like in your sunshine, you're like intimidated to shine light, don't worry about that person. They're going to figure their stuff out. They'll figure it out later on. They don't need you don't need to come over to their storm. Just keep shining light over at them. Just throw them the little light burst. It's going to be great. So if you're in that period of the storm, know that there is an end and a beginning to everything, including your storm. This chapter is absolutely going to end. Okay. So I am so thankful for you guys and all of your support through what has been the largest to date storm of the Carroll household. But I declare it over. This storm is gone. We're moving on. Next chapter. Your next chapter is coming too. I love you guys. Perspective reveals miracles.